The fluorescent lights of Miller's supermarket buzzed overhead as Rochelle Thomas reached for a bag of apples. Her cart was half full with the cheapest items she could find, her weekly grocery budget stretched thin as always. It was Friday evening and all she wanted was to get home, eat something simple, and forget about another exhausting week at Blake Industries. Then she heard his voice. Rochelle. She froze. That voice belonged to Harrison Blake, her boss. Not just any boss but the billionaire CEO of the entire company. A man who sat in the top floor corner office and barely acknowledged the existence of mid-level employees like her. A man who had spoken to her exactly 3 times in the 2 years she'd worked there. She turned slowly. Harrison stood at the end of the produce aisle, wearing dark jeans and a crisp blue button-down shirt, looking completely out of place among the tired shoppers and screaming children. His gray-streaked dark hair was slightly messy, and his sharp jaw was tense. He looked nervous, which made absolutely no sense. "Mr. Blake," she said carefully, her hand still on the apples. "Hello." He walked toward her quickly, glancing around as if checking for witnesses. When he reached her, he stood too close, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "I need your help. This weekend. It's important." Rochelle's heart began to pound. Was she being fired? Had she done something wrong? She reviewed every project she'd worked on this month, every email she'd sent, every meeting she'd attended. "What kind of help?" she asked, her voice barely steady. Harrison's dark eyes locked onto hers. "I need you to be my girlfriend. Just for this weekend. My grandmother is hosting a family gathering, and she's threatening to remove me as CEO if I don't bring someone. She thinks I'm too focused on work, that I need to settle down. If I show up alone again, she'll hand everything to my cousin Preston." Rochelle stared at him. The words didn't make sense. "You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" "Yes. I'll pay you, of course." "Name your price." Her mind raced. This was insane. This was her boss, a man 13 years older than her, a billionaire, asking her to lie to his family. Every instinct told her to refuse, to walk away, to report this bizarre conversation to HR. But then Harrison said the words that changed everything. "If you say no, I'll have to let you go on Monday. I can't risk you telling anyone about this conversation." "I'm sorry, but that's the reality." The apples fell from her hand and tumbled across the floor. "You're threatening to fire me?" "I don't want to. But I can't take the risk." His expression was cold now, all business. "So what's it going to be? One weekend of pretending or looking for a new job?" Rochelle's legs felt weak. She thought of her mother, lying in that hospital bed 3 months ago after the stroke. She thought of the medical bills that kept coming, the physical therapy appointments, the medication costs. She thought of her tiny apartment rent, her student loans, her car payment. She needed this job. She couldn't afford to lose it. "How much?" she heard herself ask. $20,000. For 2 days. The number hit her like a wave. $20,000 would cover 3 months of her mother's therapy. It would give her breathing room. It would change everything. "When?" she whispered. "Tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 9 in the morning. We'll drive to my grandmother's estate, spend the day there, and return Sunday evening. That's it. And if I say yes, my job is safe?" "Completely safe. You have my word." Rochelle knew she should feel angry. She should feel manipulated and trapped. And she did. But she also felt desperate. Her mother needed her. She couldn't afford pride right now. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll do it." Harrison's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Thank you. I'll text you my number. Send me your address." He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and her own phone buzzed in her pocket. 9 tomorrow morning. Dress casually but nice. My family is old money, but they appreciate authenticity more than designer labels. He turned and walked away, leaving Rochelle standing alone in the produce aisle with scattered apples at her feet and her entire world tilted sideways. A woman pushing a cart stopped and gave her a concerned look. "Honey, are you all right?" Rochelle bent down and started gathering the apples with shaking hands. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just clumsy." But she wasn't fine. She'd just agreed to lie to a billionaire's family for money. She'd just let her boss threaten her job to get what he wanted. And worst of all, she'd said yes without hesitation because she was drowning in bills and had no other choice. As she loaded the apples back into her cart and continued shopping in a daze, one question kept circling through her mind. What had she just agreed to? Have you ever felt trapped by circumstances beyond your control? Have you ever had to make an impossible choice just to survive? This is Rochelle's reality, and her story is just beginning. If this resonates with you, subscribe to follow her journey and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means everything. The next morning, Rochelle stood in front of her bathroom mirror for the fourth time, second-guessing her outfit. She'd chosen a simple green sundress that hit just below her knees and white sandals. Her natural hair was styled in neat twists, and she kept her makeup minimal. Casual but nice, just as Harrison had instructed. At exactly 9 o'clock, a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. Rochelle grabbed her purse and hurried downstairs before any neighbors could see and start asking questions. Harrison stepped out of the driver's side. He wore khaki pants and a light gray polo shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him at the office. He opened the passenger door for her. "Good morning," he said. His tone was polite but distant, as if they were business associates meeting for a conference. "Morning," Rochelle replied, sliding into the leather seat. The car smelled expensive, like new leather and subtle cologne. They drove in silence for several minutes before Harrison spoke. "I know this situation is strange. I want to explain everything before we arrive at the estate." "That would be helpful," Rochelle said carefully. Harrison kept his eyes on the road. "My grandmother, Eleanor Blake, is 78 years old. She built Blake Industries alongside my grandfather 50 years ago. When my grandfather died 10 years ago, she became the primary shareholder and board chair. My father ran the company until he passed away 3 years ago, and then she appointed me as CEO." Rochelle listened quietly, watching the city gradually give way to suburban neighborhoods and then rolling countryside. "For the past year, my grandmother has been obsessed with the idea that I need to get married and start a family. She thinks I'm too consumed by work. She believes a man my age should have a wife and children, not just quarterly reports and board meetings." His jaw tightened. "Last month she gave me an ultimatum. Either I bring someone to the family gathering this weekend and prove I'm serious about settling down, or she'll vote to replace me as CEO with my cousin Preston." "Preston?" Rochelle asked. "Preston Blake. He's 35, charming, and completely incompetent. He's also been after my position since the day I was appointed. My grandmother likes him because he's married with 2 children. She thinks that makes him more stable. And you can't just tell her you're focusing on your career right now?" Harrison laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "I've tried. She doesn't listen. To her, family legacy means biological legacy. She wants great-grandchildren. She wants the Blake name to continue through marriage and babies, not just business success." Rochelle absorbed this information. "So where do I fit in?" "You fit in as proof that I'm capable of a relationship. That I'm not some workaholic robot who will die alone surrounded by financial reports." He glanced at her. "I need my grandmother to believe I've found someone genuine. Someone I could actually build a future with." "Why me?" The question had been burning in Rochelle's mind since yesterday. You could have asked anyone. Someone from your social circle. Someone who actually knows your world. Harrison was quiet for a moment. "Because you're real. I've noticed you at work, Rochelle. You're kind to everyone from the janitors to the executives. You work hard without showing off. You don't play office politics. And yesterday at the supermarket, you looked like a normal person living a normal life. That's what my grandmother will respond to. Not some society woman looking for a rich husband." Rochelle didn't know whether to feel flattered or insulted. "So I'm authentic enough to be believable but not important enough to cause problems?" "That's not what I meant." Harrison sighed. "I'm handling this badly. Look, I know I put you in an impossible position yesterday. I shouldn't have threatened your job. That was wrong. But I was desperate and you were right there and I just reacted. You threatened to fire me if I didn't agree to a fake relationship," Rochelle said flatly. "That's not just handling something badly. That's abuse of power." "You're right. It is." He looked at her directly now. "I'm sorry, truly. Once this weekend is over, if you want to transfer to a different department or even leave the company with a glowing recommendation letter, I'll make it happen. I'll also pay you the $20,000 regardless." Rochelle studied his face. He looked sincere, but she'd learned not to trust powerful men too easily. "Tell me about your family. Who will I be meeting?" Harrison relaxed slightly, grateful for the change of subject. "My grandmother Eleanor is sharp as a knife and misses nothing. My sister Vanessa is 38, married with 1 daughter, and she's lovely. You'll like her. My cousin Preston will be there with his wife Bethany and their 2 kids. Preston will be suspicious. He wants my job badly enough to look for any cracks in our story." "What story should we have?" Rochelle asked. "How did we meet? How long have we been together?" "Good question." Harrison thought for a moment. "Let's say we've been dating for 3 months. We met at a company event, started talking, and realized we had a connection. We've been keeping it quiet because of my position and because we wanted to make sure it was real before going public. 3 months is pretty serious, Rochelle pointed out. Exactly. Long enough to be meaningful, but not so long that they'll question why they haven't heard about you before. Harrison pulled onto a long driveway lined with oak trees. We're almost there. Any questions? Rochelle had 1,000 questions, but one rose above the others. What happens if your grandmother sees through this? Harrison's expression darkened. Then I lose everything I've worked for. And you'll have wasted your weekend for nothing. The car rounded a curve, and suddenly an enormous house appeared, a sprawling stone mansion with perfectly manicured gardens and a fountain in the circular driveway. Rochelle's breath caught. This wasn't just wealth. This was generational fortune. Welcome to the Blake estate, Harrison said quietly. Ready to meet my family? Rochelle looked at the intimidating house and thought of her mother's medical bills. No. But let's do this anyway. Harrison reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. Thank you, Rochelle. I know this is asking too much. But thank you. As they stepped out of the car and walked toward the massive front door, Rochelle realized she just entered a world she didn't understand, playing a role she wasn't prepared for, all because desperation had left her with no other choice. The door opened before they reached it, revealing a tall, elegant woman with white hair and piercing blue eyes. Grandmother Eleanor had been waiting for them. Eleanor Blake stood in the doorway like a queen surveying her kingdom. She wore a red pantsuit that probably cost more than Rochelle's entire wardrobe, and her white hair was styled in a perfect updo. Her blue eyes swept over Rochelle with an intensity that made her want to step backward. So, Eleanor said, her voice crisp and commanding. This is the mysterious girlfriend. Harrison placed his hand on the small of Rochelle's back, a gentle gesture that felt surprisingly natural. Grandmother, this is Rochelle Thomas. Rochelle, my grandmother, Eleanor Blake. Rochelle extended her hand, keeping her smile warm despite her nerves. It's wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Blake. Harrison has told me so much about you. Eleanor's handshake was firm, her gaze calculating. Has he now? Funny because he's told me absolutely nothing about you until 2 days ago. She stepped aside, gesturing them into the house. Come in. The family is gathering in the conservatory. The interior of the Blake estate was even more impressive than the outside. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, oil paintings that looked like they belonged in museums. Rochelle tried not to gawk as they followed Eleanor through a series of elegantly furnished rooms. You work at Blake Industries, I understand? Eleanor said, not looking back at them. Yes, ma'am. I'm a marketing coordinator. And how did you and my grandson come to be involved? Rochelle glanced at Harrison, who gave her an encouraging nod. We met at a company charity event 3 months ago. We started talking about the marketing campaign for the event, and the conversation just flowed naturally. Harrison asked me to dinner the next week and we've been seeing each other since. 3 months is quite some time to keep a relationship secret, Eleanor observed. Harrison spoke up. We wanted to be sure it was real before making it public. Given my position, any relationship I have becomes company gossip immediately. They entered a bright, glass-walled conservatory filled with plants and comfortable furniture. 3 people looked up as they arrived. A woman around Harrison's age with kind eyes and brown hair stood immediately, smiling. You must be Rochelle. I'm Vanessa, Harrison's sister. It's so good to finally meet you. Rochelle felt a wave of relief at Vanessa's genuine warmth. It's wonderful to meet you too. A man with slicked-back blonde hair and a smirk on his face remained seated. Preston Blake, he said, his tone making it clear he wasn't thrilled about this meeting. Harrison's cousin. And this is my wife, Bethany. Bethany, a thin woman with nervous energy, gave a small wave. Hello. Please sit, Eleanor commanded, settling into what was clearly her chair. Tell us about yourself, Rochelle. Where are you from? What's your family like? This was the interrogation Rochelle had been dreading. She sat next to Harrison on a love seat, very aware of Preston's skeptical gaze. I grew up in Baltimore, Rochelle began. My mother is a retired teacher and I'm an only child. She had a stroke a few months ago, but she's recovering well with therapy. Eleanor's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry to hear about your mother's health troubles. That must be difficult. It has been, Rochelle admitted honestly. But she's strong. She taught me that challenges are just opportunities to prove what you're made of. Vanessa smiled. That's a beautiful perspective. What made you choose marketing as a career? Rochelle relaxed a bit as the conversation shifted to safer territory. I've always loved storytelling and finding ways to connect people with ideas. Marketing lets me do that creatively. Plus, working at Blake Industries has been incredible. The company does so much good work, especially the community outreach programs. Preston leaned forward, his smirk widening. So you work for Harrison. Doesn't that create a conflict of interest? Boss dating his employee? Harrison's hand found Rochelle's, their fingers intertwining. Rochelle works in a completely different department. We maintain professional boundaries at the office. I'm sure you do, Preston said, his tone dripping with insinuation. Eleanor shot Preston a sharp look. That's enough. I'd like to hear more about this relationship. How do you two spend your time together? Rochelle felt Harrison tense beside her. This was the part where they had to sell the lie convincingly. She took a breath and spoke from a place of partial truth. We keep things simple mostly. Harrison works long hours, so we usually meet for dinner or coffee. We talk a lot. He tells me about the pressure of running the company, and I share stories about juggling work and taking care of my mother. We both understand what it's like to have responsibilities that weigh on you. Something flickered in Eleanor's eyes. Interest, perhaps, or recognition. Harrison has always been serious, Vanessa said gently. Even as a child, he carried the weight of our family name. It's good to see him with someone who understands that. Preston stood abruptly. Well, this has been lovely, but some of us have actual family obligations. Come on, Bethany. The kids need checking on. He walked out without another word, his wife trailing behind him. Eleanor watched him go, then turned back to Rochelle. You'll have to forgive Preston. He's always been jealous of Harrison's position. I understand family dynamics can be complicated, Rochelle said carefully. Complicated is putting it mildly. Eleanor stood, signaling the end of this round of questioning. Lunch will be served in an hour. Vanessa, why don't you show Rochelle the gardens? Harrison, I'd like a word with you in my study. Harrison squeezed Rochelle's hand before standing. I'll see you in a bit. As Harrison left with his grandmother, Vanessa linked her arm through Rochelle's. Don't worry about Eleanor. She's intimidating but fair. And don't worry about Preston either. He's harmless, just bitter. They walked out into the gardens and Rochelle breathed easier in the open air. Your family is very intense. Vanessa laughed. That's one word for it. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. Harrison hasn't brought anyone to meet the family in over 5 years. The fact that you're here means something significant to him. I hope you're patient with him. He's been alone for a long time, by choice mostly, and learning to let someone in doesn't come naturally to him. Rochelle felt a pang of guilt. Vanessa was so sincere, so hopeful that her brother had found real connection. If only she knew this was all an act. He seems like a good man, Rochelle said, which was at least partially true. He is. He just forgets sometimes that there's more to life than board meetings and profit margins. Vanessa paused by a rose garden. I'm glad he has you to remind him. Rochelle looked at the beautiful flowers, thinking about how strange life could be. 24 hours ago she was struggling with grocery money. Now she was standing in a billionaire's garden, pretending to be in love with her boss, and feeling genuinely touched by his sister's kindness. Can I ask you something? Rochelle said impulsively. What's Harrison really like? Not the CEO version, but the real person. Vanessa's smile was sad. He's lonely. He's been lonely since our father died. He threw himself into work because it was easier than dealing with grief. And now work is all he knows. She looked at Rochelle with hope in her eyes. But maybe you can help him remember there's more to life than business. Before Rochelle could respond, Harrison appeared on the garden path, his expression unreadable. Grandmother wants to see you, Vanessa. Something about the seating arrangement for lunch. As Vanessa walked away, Harrison turned to Rochelle. How are you holding up? Your family is interesting, Rochelle said diplomatically. That's a kind way of putting it. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. My grandmother asked me if I love you. I said yes. She's watching us right now from her study window, so we need to look convincing. Rochelle's heart skipped. What do you mean? Harrison reached out and tucked a twist of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle. To anyone watching it would look tender and intimate. Just follow my lead. He took her hand and they walked deeper into the garden, their heads close together as if sharing secrets. And despite knowing this was all pretend, despite the strange circumstances that had brought them here, Rochelle found herself wondering what it would feel like if this were real. The week following the estate visit passed in a strange blur. At the office, Rochelle tried to act normal, but everything felt different. Harrison would catch her eye across the conference room during meetings, and they'd share a look that held secrets. Colleagues noticed but didn't ask questions directly. The gossip mill, however, was working overtime. On Friday afternoon, Harrison called Rochelle to his office. She'd only been in the CEO's office twice before, both times for large group meetings. Now, sitting across from him at his massive desk with the city skyline visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, she felt small and out of place. "How was your week?" Harrison asked, his tone more personal than professional. "Busy. The Jameson campaign is moving forward nicely." "Good." He leaned back in his leather chair. "I need to ask you something and you can absolutely say no." Rochelle tensed. "What is it?" "Blake Industries is hosting a charity gala tomorrow night. It's our annual fundraiser for children's hospitals. As CEO, I'm expected to attend, and after last weekend, my grandmother will expect me to bring you." "Another event?" "I know. I'm asking too much. But if you don't come, my grandmother will question why, and everything we did last weekend will fall apart." He paused. "I'll pay you another $10,000 for tomorrow night." Rochelle should have felt angry about the continued manipulation, but instead she felt tired. "What time should I be ready?" 6 o'clock. The event is formal. Do you have an evening gown?" She almost laughed. "No, Harrison. I don't own a gown." He pulled out his phone and typed quickly. "I'm sending you the contact information for a boutique. Tell them you're shopping for the Blake Industries Gala and that Harrison Blake is covering the cost. Get whatever you need, dress, shoes, accessories. I can't let you buy me clothes. Rochelle, I'm asking you to spend your Saturday evening at a work function pretending to be my girlfriend. The least I can do is make sure you're comfortable and appropriately dressed. Please, accept this." Something in his voice made her pause. This wasn't about power or control. He genuinely wanted to make this easier for her. "Okay," she said softly. "Thank you." The next evening, Rochelle stood in front of her bathroom mirror barely recognizing herself. The boutique had helped her find a stunning blue gown that hugged her curves perfectly. The dress had a high neckline and flowing skirt that made her feel elegant and confident. Her hair was styled in an updo with a few loose twists framing her face, and her makeup was polished but natural. When Harrison knocked on her apartment door at 6, his expression stopped her breath. "You look beautiful," he said simply, and the way he looked at her made something flutter in her chest. Harrison wore a perfectly tailored black suit with a blue tie that nearly matched her dress. "Did you plan this?" she asked, gesturing to their coordinated colors. He smiled. "I asked the boutique what color dress you chose. I wanted us to look like we belonged together." They drove to the downtown hotel where the gala was being held. The ballroom was magnificent, decorated with white flowers and twinkling lights. Well-dressed people mingled with champagne glasses, and a string quartet played soft music in the corner. "This is incredible," Rochelle breathed. "Wait until you see how much money we raised tonight," Harrison said. "Last year we brought in $2 million for the children's hospital." Eleanor appeared almost immediately, resplendent in a gold gown. "There you are. Rochelle, you look lovely. Come, I want to introduce you to some people." The next hour was a whirlwind of introductions. Board members, business partners, wealthy donors. Everyone wanted to meet Harrison's girlfriend. Rochelle smiled until her face hurt and tried to remember names and faces. She noticed how people reacted to Harrison. They respected him, but there was also fear in their eyes. He wielded tremendous power and they knew it. But when he looked at her, his expression softened. When he introduced her, his hand rested gently on her back. When someone made her uncomfortable with too personal questions, he smoothly redirected the conversation. Vanessa found them during dinner. "You two are causing quite a stir. Everyone's talking about how different Harrison seems with you." "Different how?" Rochelle asked. "Happier. More human." Vanessa grinned. "It's good to see." After dinner, the music changed to something slow and romantic. Harrison extended his hand. "Dance with me?" On the dance floor, he pulled her close, one hand at her waist and the other holding hers gently. They moved together naturally, and Rochelle realized she fit perfectly against him. "You're doing wonderfully tonight," Harrison murmured. "Thank you for being here." "It's not as terrible as I thought it would be," Rochelle admitted. "High praise." His smile was genuine. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "My father died of a heart attack at his desk. He was working late, alone, reviewing quarterly reports. No one found him until the morning." Harrison's voice was thick with old pain. "I've been terrified of ending up the same way. Alone. Working myself to death with nothing else in my life that matters." Rochelle's heart ached for him. "That won't happen to you." "How do you know?" "Because you're aware of the danger. Your father didn't see it coming but you do. That awareness changes everything." Harrison pulled her slightly closer. You're wise for 28. You say that like you're ancient. 41 isn't old. Sometimes I feel old. Most of the time, actually. He looked down at her, his dark eyes intense. But not right now. Right now, I feel like maybe there's more to life than board meetings. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Rochelle couldn't quite name. This didn't feel like acting anymore. This felt real. The song ended, but Harrison didn't immediately let her go. Rochelle, I need to tell you something. Before he could continue, Preston appeared beside them, drink in hand and smirk firmly in place. Well, isn't this touching? The CEO and his employee, playing house at company events. Harrison's entire body tensed. Preston, this isn't the time. Oh, I think it's exactly the time. Preston's voice was loud enough that people nearby turned to look. I think everyone here should know that Harrison Blake is dating one of his own employees. Isn't that against company policy? Rochelle felt heat flood her face as conversations around them stopped. People were staring. Preston, walk away, Harrison said, his voice dangerously quiet. What? Afraid people will realize you're abusing your power? Dating someone who reports to you even indirectly? That's a termination-level offense for any other employee. Eleanor appeared, her expression thunderous. Preston Blake, you will leave this event immediately, or I will have security remove you. Preston laughed, but it was bitter. Always protecting your golden boy, aren't you, grandmother? Even when he's breaking the rules you set. The only rule being broken here is basic human decency, Eleanor said coldly. Rochelle works in marketing. Harrison is the CEO. There is no direct reporting relationship. And even if there were, their personal lives are none of your concern. Now leave before I do something we'll both regret. Preston left, but the damage was done. Everyone was whispering now, looking at Rochelle with curious, judgmental eyes. Harrison took her hand. Let's get some air. They stepped onto a balcony overlooking the city lights. Rochelle's hands were shaking. I'm sorry, Harrison said. Preston is trying to undermine me any way he can. Everyone thinks I'm sleeping with you for job security, Rochelle said quietly. They think I'm using you. Anyone with eyes can see that's not true. Can they? Rochelle turned to him. Because from where I'm standing, I took money to pretend to be your girlfriend. Maybe Preston isn't completely wrong. You're nothing like he suggested. Harrison stepped closer. You're kind, genuine, and you've handled all of this with more grace than I had any right to expect. What we have, fake or not, is built on honesty between us. That matters. Rochelle looked at him, really looked at him. The man behind the CEO title. The son who missed his father. The grandson trying to live up to impossible expectations. The lonely person who worked himself to exhaustion because he didn't know what else to do. Harrison, she said softly, what are we doing here? I don't know anymore, he admitted. But I don't want it to stop. Inside, the gala continued. Outside on that balcony, with the city lights twinkling below and the cool night air around them, something shifted between Rochelle and Harrison. Something that felt less like pretending and more like truth. Sunday morning arrived with gentle sunlight and unusual silence. Rochelle was still in bed, reviewing the events of the gala in her mind, when her phone buzzed with a text from Harrison. Good morning. Would you like to get coffee? Somewhere quiet where we can just talk. No act. No performance. Just us. She stared at the message. This wasn't part of their arrangement. He wasn't paying her for coffee on a Sunday. This was something else entirely. Where? She texted back. Rosie's Cafe on Maple Street. 10 a.m.? Rochelle knew the place. It was a small neighborhood coffee shop, nothing fancy or expensive. The kind of place a billionaire CEO would never normally visit. She arrived at 10 exactly, wearing comfortable jeans and a red sweater. Harrison was already there, sitting at a corner table wearing casual clothes and a baseball cap, looking like he was trying to be invisible. Interesting disguise, Rochelle said as she sat down. He smiled sheepishly. I didn't want people recognizing me. I wanted one morning where I could just be a person, not a headline. A waitress came by and they ordered coffee and breakfast. Once she left, Harrison removed the cap and ran his hand through his hair. Thank you for coming, he said. I know yesterday was difficult. Preston really doesn't like you. No, he doesn't. He's been trying to take my position since I got it. He thinks he deserves it more because he's married with kids. Harrison's expression darkened. What he doesn't understand is that running a company isn't about looking the part. It's about actually caring about the work. Their coffee arrived and Rochelle wrapped her hands around the warm mug. Can I ask you something personal? After everything we've been through, I think we're past formal boundaries. Why haven't you dated anyone seriously? You're successful, attractive, and from what I can see, a decent person. There must have been opportunities. Harrison was quiet for a moment, looking out the window. After my father died, I threw myself into work. It was easier than feeling the grief. Months turned into years and work became my entire identity. By the time I looked up, I realized I was 41 years old and completely alone. He met her eyes. I convinced myself I didn't need anything else. That work was enough. Was it? No. But admitting that felt like admitting I'd wasted years of my life. Rochelle understood that feeling more than she wanted to admit. I don't have the best track record with relationships either. Between taking care of my mother and trying to build my career, I let everything else fall away. My last serious relationship ended 3 years ago because he said I was too focused on everything except him. Was he right? Probably. But my mother needed me and I wasn't going to apologize for that. Their food arrived and they ate in comfortable silence for a while. Rochelle found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't expected. Harrison wasn't her boss right now. He was just a man having coffee and conversation. "What's your dream?" Harrison asked suddenly. "If money wasn't an issue and you could do anything, what would you choose?" Rochelle didn't have to think. "I'd open my own marketing firm. Something small and specialized, focusing on nonprofits and community organizations. I'd help groups that do important work but can't afford big marketing budgets." "That's a beautiful goal. What's stopping you?" "Money mostly. Starting a business takes capital I don't have. Plus, my mother's medical expenses eat up everything I make. The dream feels far away." Harrison leaned forward. "What if it wasn't far away? What if you had the funding? Are you offering to bankroll my business?" Rochelle laughed. "That's not how this works, Harrison." "Why not? I have resources you need. You have a dream worth supporting. Why shouldn't I help?" "Because I can't accept that kind of help from you. It would change everything between us." "Everything is already changed," Harrison said quietly. "Rochelle, I need to be honest with you. This arrangement we have, this fake relationship, it doesn't feel fake anymore." "Not to me." Rochelle's heart started racing. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that somewhere between the supermarket confrontation and the charity gala, I started to genuinely care about you. I look forward to seeing you. I think about you when I should be thinking about work. When we're together, I feel less lonely." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I know this started in the worst possible way. I know I manipulated you and put you in an impossible position. But what I'm feeling now isn't manipulation. It's real." Rochelle pulled her hand back, her mind spinning. "You can't do this. You can't make this complicated. It's already complicated." "No, it's clear. You're my boss. You paid me to pretend to be your girlfriend. That's the arrangement. Adding real feelings to that is a terrible idea." "Why?" "Because when this ends, I still have to work for you. I still need that job. I still need that paycheck." Rochelle's voice rose. "You have all the power here, Harrison. You always have. If this becomes real and then falls apart, I'm the one who loses everything, not you." Harrison looked stricken. "I wouldn't let that happen. You can't promise that. You can't control how things might end." Rochelle stood up, grabbing her purse. "I need to go. Please don't leave like this. I need space to think. This is too much, too fast." She paused. "Thank you for breakfast. I'll text you later." She walked out of the cafe, her mind a mess of conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to run back inside and tell Harrison she felt the same way. Because she did. Somewhere in the middle of this bizarre situation, she'd started to care about him too. She looked forward to their conversations. She felt safe with him. She liked the person he was when he let his guard down. But the other part of her, the practical part that had survived her whole life by being careful, knew this was dangerous territory. Harrison had power over her job, her livelihood, her future. Getting emotionally involved with him was a risk she couldn't afford. Her phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. "I understand you need space. I'm sorry if I pushed too hard. Whatever you decide, your job is secure. You have my word." Rochelle sat in her car, reading the message 3 times. He was trying to reassure her, but that was the problem. He shouldn't have to promise her job security. If their relationship were healthy and equal, that wouldn't even be a question. She drove home and spent the rest of the day in her apartment, thinking. Her mother called in the afternoon, cheerful and recovering well, and Rochelle didn't mention anything about Harrison. What would she even say? That she'd gotten tangled up with her billionaire boss and didn't know how to untangle herself? That evening she finally texted Harrison back. Thank you for understanding. I need a few days. Let's talk next week. His response came immediately, take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. Rochelle set her phone down and looked around her small apartment. She thought about Harrison's mansion, his world of wealth and power. She thought about his loneliness and his vulnerability. She thought about how complicated life could become when feelings entered spaces where they shouldn't. But mostly she thought about how she'd felt on that dance floor at the gala, held close in his arms, feeling like maybe she'd finally found someone who understood her. And that terrified her more than anything else. Monday morning arrived with a sense of dread. Rochelle walked into Blake Industries knowing that everyone had heard about the charity gala confrontation. Preston had made sure of that. Her coworker, Angela, caught her arm as soon as she entered the marketing department. Girl, is it true? Are you actually dating Harrison Blake? It's complicated, Rochelle said carefully. Complicated how? Either you are or you aren't. Rochelle set down her bag at her desk. We're seeing each other, yes. Angela's eyes went wide. I knew something was different about you lately. But Rochelle, he's the CEO. People are talking. Let them talk. It's not that simple. Trevor from accounting said Preston Blake told him you're only with Harrison for money. Kimberly from HR said there's going to be an investigation into whether the relationship violates company policy. Rochelle's stomach dropped. An investigation? That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true. Angela squeezed her arm. Just be careful, okay? Office romances are hard enough when both people are regular employees. But dating the CEO? That's a whole different situation. The morning crawled by. Rochelle could feel eyes on her constantly. Conversations stopped when she entered break rooms. People whispered when she walked past their desks. At lunch, she ate alone in her car, not wanting to face the cafeteria gossip. Her phone buzzed. Harrison, I'm hearing rumors about an HR investigation. Meet me in my office at 2 p.m. We need to discuss this. At 2 o'clock, Rochelle rode the elevator to the top floor, her heart pounding. Harrison's assistant waved her through immediately. Harrison stood by his window looking out over the city. He turned when she entered, his expression serious. Close the door, he said. She did, then stood awkwardly near the door. Sit please. You're not in trouble. Rochelle sat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. Angela said HR might investigate us. Preston filed a formal complaint this morning. He's claiming our relationship violates company ethics policies and that I'm showing you favoritism. Harrison sat on the edge of his desk, not behind it. I've already spoken with our legal team and HR director. There's no violation. You don't report to me even indirectly. There's no conflict of interest. But people are talking. They think I'm using you. Then we'll prove them wrong. Harrison's jaw was set. I'm calling an all-staff meeting tomorrow morning. I'm going to address this directly. Harrison, no. That'll just make it worse. Staying silent makes it worse. Letting rumors fester makes it worse. He moved to sit in the chair next to hers, bringing them to eye level. I won't let Preston or anyone else attack your character. You've done nothing wrong. Except take money to pretend to be your girlfriend. Harrison flinched. No one knows about that arrangement except us. And Rochelle, I need you to understand something. Whatever that arrangement was at the beginning, it's not what this is now. At least not for me. We talked about this yesterday. I know. And I said I'd give you space. But I can't give you space while Preston is trying to destroy your reputation. He took her hand. Let me protect you. Let me make this right. Rochelle wanted to pull away but she couldn't. What exactly are you going to tell everyone tomorrow? The truth. That I care about you. That our relationship is genuine and doesn't violate any policies. That anyone who has a problem with it can come speak to me directly. His grip tightened. I should have done this from the beginning instead of asking you to keep everything secret. The next morning, Rochelle arrived at work to find an email announcing a mandatory all-staff meeting in the main conference hall at 9. The entire building was buzzing with speculation. When she entered the conference hall, every seat was filled. People lined the walls. She found a spot near the back trying to be invisible. Harrison walked to the front of the room. He wore a sharp navy suit and an expression of complete authority. This was Harrison Blake, the CEO, commanding and powerful. Thank you all for being here, he began, his voice carrying easily through the room. I'm sure you've all heard rumors about my personal life over the past week. I'm here to address those rumors directly. The room went completely silent. I am in a relationship with Rochelle Thomas, who works in our marketing department. This relationship is genuine, and it does not violate any company policies. Rochelle does not report to me in any capacity. Our personal relationship has no bearing on professional decisions or evaluations. He paused, looking around the room. Some of you may have heard accusations that this relationship is inappropriate or that Rochelle is using her connection to me for professional advantage. Let me be absolutely clear. Those accusations are false and harmful. Rochelle has earned every opportunity she has through her own talent and hard work. She is an exceptional employee who deserves respect, not gossip. Rochelle felt tears prick her eyes. She hadn't expected Harrison to defend her so fiercely. Effective immediately, Blake Industries is implementing a strict anti-gossip and anti-harassment policy. If anyone is found spreading malicious rumors about any employee, there will be disciplinary consequences up to and including termination. We are professionals. We will treat each other with respect. He looked directly at the back of the room where Rochelle stood. I don't apologize for my personal choices. Rochelle makes me want to be a better person and a better leader. I'm grateful she's in my life, and I won't let anyone make her feel otherwise. The meeting ended shortly after. As people filed out, several gave Rochelle sympathetic looks. Angela hugged her in the hallway. That was incredible, Angela whispered. He really cares about you. Rochelle nodded, unable to speak. Harrison had just put his reputation on the line for her. He'd used his power not to control her, but to protect her. Later that afternoon, Harrison came down to the marketing department, which he never did. He stopped at Rochelle's desk. Can we talk? Maybe grab dinner tonight? Everyone was watching, but Rochelle didn't care anymore. Yes, I'd like that. Harrison smiled, and it transformed his whole face. I'll pick you up at 7. As he walked away, Rochelle realized something had shifted. Harrison hadn't asked her to dinner as part of their arrangement. He hadn't offered to pay her. He just asked like a normal person interested in spending time with someone they cared about. And she'd said yes because she wanted to, not because she felt she had to. Maybe, just maybe, this could actually work. Harrison picked Rochelle up at 7 wearing jeans and a simple gray shirt. No designer labels, no expensive watch. He looked like a regular person, and Rochelle appreciated that. Where are we going? She asked as she got into his car. It's a surprise. But I promise it's nothing fancy. They drove for 20 minutes, leaving the city center and heading into a quieter neighborhood. Harrison pulled up in front of a small art museum Rochelle had never visited. The Westbrook Gallery, she read from the sign. I didn't know this place existed. Most people don't. It's a hidden gem. Harrison came around and opened her door. My mother loved this museum. She brought me here when I was young. After she died, my father stopped coming, but I still visit sometimes when I need to think. They entered the quiet building. The gallery specialized in local artists, and the exhibits were intimate and personal. They wandered through rooms filled with paintings, sculptures, and photography. This one reminds me of you, Harrison said, stopping in front of a painting of a woman walking through a garden at sunrise. The colors were warm and hopeful. Why? Rochelle asked. Because you bring light into spaces. You did that at my grandmother's estate. You did it at the gala. You do it at the office. He studied the painting. Before you, everything in my life felt gray. Now there's color. Rochelle felt her chest tighten. Harrison, you said things like that. I know. But I can't help it. He turned to face her. I know this started wrong. I know I handled everything badly. But I'm trying to do better now. This dinner, this date, it's not part of any arrangement. It's just me wanting to spend time with you. They continued through the museum, talking about art and life and everything in between. Harrison told her about his mother, who died when he was 20. Rochelle shared memories of her father, who'd left when she was young. Do you ever feel like you're constantly proving yourself? Rochelle asked as they stood before a sculpture of a figure climbing a mountain. Like no matter what you achieve, it's never quite enough? Every day, Harrison admitted. My father's shadow is long. I keep trying to live up to his legacy while also trying to be my own person. It's exhausting. You don't have to be your father. You can be your own version of successful. That's what my therapist says. Harrison smiled ruefully. Did I mention I see a therapist? Twice a month for the past year. Good. Everyone should have someone to talk to. Rochelle paused. I saw a counselor after my mother's stroke. It helped me process the fear of losing her. They left the museum as the sun was setting and drove to a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a side street. The place was cozy and warm, with checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic and tomato sauce filling the air. This is perfect, Rochelle said as they sat in a corner booth. No champagne, no caviar, no status, Harrison said. Just good food and good company. Over pasta and wine they talked for hours. Harrison made her laugh with stories about his sister's teenage rebellion years. Rochelle shared funny moments from her college days. The conversation flowed naturally without any awkwardness or pretense. "Can I ask you something?" Rochelle said as they shared a slice of tiramisu for dessert. "That first day at the supermarket, why did you really choose me?" Harrison set down his fork. "I told you. Because you seemed real. But there has to be more to it than that." He was quiet for a moment. "I'd noticed you before that day. At company events and meetings. You always treated everyone the same, whether they were executives or janitors. You smiled genuinely. You listened when people talked. And I remember thinking that if I ever had the courage to actually pursue a relationship with someone, it should be someone like you." "Someone like me?" "Someone kind. Someone grounded. Someone who sees people as people, not as stepping stones or bank accounts." He reached across the table and took her hand. "So when I panicked about my grandmother's ultimatum and saw you in that supermarket, it wasn't random. Some part of me had already decided you were someone special." Rochelle's defenses were crumbling. "This is scary, Harrison. I don't do relationships well. I tend to put up walls and push people away when they get too close." "I understand walls. I've built plenty of my own." He squeezed her hand gently. "What if we take this slow? No pressure. No expectations. Just two people learning to trust each other." "What about your grandmother? And Preston?" "My grandmother already approves of you. She told me after the estate visit that you were the first person I brought home who actually seemed to care about me as a person." Harrison smiled. "As for Preston, let him scheme. I'm not worried anymore." They left the restaurant and walked through the quiet neighborhood. Harrison held her hand, and this time Rochelle didn't pull away. It felt right. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "For sharing your mother's museum with me. For dinner. For everything. Thank you for giving me a chance despite how terribly I started this whole thing." They reached his car, but neither moved to get in. The streetlight cast a soft glow around them, and the night air was cool and pleasant. "Rochelle," Harrison said softly. "Can I kiss you?" Her heart hammered in her chest. This would change everything. This would make it all real and complicated and messy. But she wanted it anyway. "Yes," she whispered. Harrison cupped her face gently and kissed her. It was tender and sweet, nothing rushed or demanding. Just two people finally being honest about what they felt. When they pulled apart, Rochelle rested her forehead against his. "What are we doing?" "I don't know," Harrison admitted. "But I want to find out. With you." He drove her home, and when he walked her to her apartment door, he kissed her again. Then he left because he was trying to be a gentleman, trying to do this right. Rochelle went inside and leaned against her door, touching her lips and smiling. For the first time in years she felt genuinely happy. Not just content, not just surviving, but truly happy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. "I'm already thinking about when I can see you again. Is that too forward?" She laughed and typed back, "Not forward enough. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. Good night, Rochelle." "Good night, Harrison." She went to bed that night thinking about art museums and Italian restaurants and kisses under streetlights. And for once she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could actually work out. The following Tuesday, Rochelle received a phone call at work that made her stomach flip. "Hello, dear. This is Eleanor Blake." Rochelle nearly dropped her phone. "Mrs. Blake. Hello. I'd like to invite you to lunch. Just the two of us. Are you free on Saturday?" This was either a very good sign or a terrible one. "Yes, I'm free." "Wonderful. I'll have my driver pick you up at noon. We'll have lunch at the Oak Room. Do you know it?" Rochelle knew of it. The Oak Room was one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. "Yes, ma'am." "Excellent. I'll see you then." The call ended, and Rochelle immediately texted Harrison, "Your grandmother just invited me to lunch. Should I be worried?" His response came quickly, "She's testing you. Just be yourself. You'll be fine." Saturday arrived too quickly. Rochelle dressed in a green dress that was nice but not overly fancy, and waited nervously for the car. At exactly noon, a sleek town car pulled up, and a driver helped her into the back seat. The Oak Room was everything she expected. Elegant, expensive, and intimidating. Eleanor was already seated at a private corner table, looking regal in a maroon suit. "Rochelle. Thank you for coming." Eleanor gestured to the seat across from her. "Please sit." A waiter appeared immediately, pouring water and offering menus. Eleanor ordered for both of them without asking what Rochelle wanted, which should have bothered her but somehow didn't. This was Eleanor's show and Rochelle was just along for the ride. So, Eleanor began once the waiter left. How are you finding life in my grandson's world? It's been an adjustment, Rochelle admitted. Your family's life is very different from what I'm used to. I imagine so. Tell me about your family. Your mother is recovering from a stroke, Harrison mentioned. Yes, she's doing much better. The therapy is helping. That must be expensive. Medical care these days is absurd. Eleanor sipped her water. How do you manage? Rochelle knew this was part of the test. I work hard and budget carefully. My mother taught me to be resourceful. And Harrison? Has he offered financial help? This was a trap. If she said yes, Eleanor might think she was using him. If she said no and it was a lie, Eleanor would know. He offered, Rochelle said honestly. I declined. I need to handle my responsibilities on my own. Eleanor's expression softened slightly. Why? Because accepting money from Harrison would change the nature of our relationship. I don't want him to feel like I'm with him because of what he can provide financially. I want him to know that I care about him as a person, not as a bank account. Even though accepting help would make your life easier, easier isn't always better. Self-respect matters more than convenience. The food arrived, some kind of elegant salad that probably cost more than Rochelle's weekly grocery budget. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Do you love my grandson? Eleanor asked abruptly. Rochelle set down her fork. This was the real question, the one everything else had been building toward. I'm falling in love with him, she said carefully. It's still new and it's complicated, but yes. I care about him deeply. Why? Because underneath the CEO exterior, Harrison is kind. He works himself too hard because he's trying to honor his father's legacy. He's lonely but doesn't know how to fix it. He makes me laugh. He listens when I talk. And when he looks at me, I feel seen in a way I've never felt before. Eleanor watched her with those sharp blue eyes. You know he's older than you. 13 years is a significant gap. Age is just a number. What matters is whether two people understand each other and want the same things from life. And what do you want from life? Rochelle thought about this carefully. I want to build something meaningful. I want to take care of my mother. I want to wake up happy more often than not. And I want to be with someone who makes me feel like I'm enough, exactly as I am. Does Harrison make you feel that way? Yes, he does. Eleanor was quiet for a long moment, studying Rochelle with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. Good. Because I've watched my grandson work himself into the ground for 3 years. I've watched him hide behind board meetings and profit margins. I've watched him become a shell of the man he could be. She leaned forward. But since you came into his life, I've seen glimpses of the real Harrison again. The one who laughs. The one who cares about things beyond business. He's always been that person, Rochelle said. He just forgot for a while. Perhaps. Or perhaps he needed someone to remind him. Eleanor picked up her wine glass. Rochelle, I'm going to be honest with you. When Harrison first told me about you, I was suspicious. I thought you might be after his money. But after spending time with you, watching how you interact with him and with our family, I can see that's not the case. Thank you for seeing that. Don't thank me yet. I'm a difficult woman, and I have high standards for anyone who wants to be part of this family. Eleanor's expression was serious now. But I believe you genuinely care about Harrison. And more importantly, I believe you're good for him. Relief flooded through Rochelle. That means everything, Mrs. Blake. Call me Eleanor. We're past formalities now. She signaled the waiter for more wine. Now, tell me about this marketing firm you want to start. Harrison mentioned it. They spent the next hour talking about Rochelle's business dreams, her marketing philosophy, and her vision for helping nonprofit organizations. Eleanor listened attentively and asked thoughtful questions. You have a solid plan, Eleanor said as lunch was wrapping up. When you're ready to launch your firm, come talk to me. The Blake Family Foundation might be interested in being your first client. Rochelle's eyes widened. Eleanor, I couldn't accept that. Why not? It's not charity. It's good business. We need quality marketing for our foundation work, and you need experience and a strong client to build your reputation. It's practical, not pity. This was different from Harrison offering help. This was a business opportunity based on merit. I would be honored to work with the foundation. Good. We'll discuss details when the time comes. Eleanor stood, signaling the lunch was over. My driver will take you home. Thank you for being honest with me today, Rochelle. I appreciate directness. In the car ride home, Rochelle felt like she was floating. She'd passed Eleanor's test. She had the family matriarch's approval. This relationship with Harrison suddenly felt more real, more possible than it ever had before. She texted Harrison, "Lunch went well. Your grandmother is terrifying but fair." His response, "She called me right after you left. She likes you. Actually, she more than likes you. She told me if I mess this up, she'll disown me." Rochelle laughed out loud. "Don't mess it up then." "I don't plan to." "Dinner tonight?" "I miss you. You just saw me yesterday." "I know. I miss you anyway." Rochelle smiled at her phone, feeling warm and happy. Dinner sounds perfect. As the car carried her through the city streets, Rochelle thought about how much her life had changed in just a few weeks. She'd gone from being threatened in a supermarket to having lunch with a billionaire matriarch who approved of her relationship. Life was strange. But right now it was also pretty wonderful. 3 weeks later, everything seemed to be going perfectly. Rochelle and Harrison were genuinely together now, no pretense involved. They had dinner twice a week, spent Sundays together, and talked every night before bed. At work, colleagues had accepted their relationship, and the gossip had died down. But Preston Blake was not finished causing trouble. On a Thursday afternoon, Rochelle was working on a marketing campaign when her office phone rang. Rochelle Thomas. "Hello, Rochelle. This is Preston Blake. We need to talk." Her stomach dropped. "About what?" "Meet me in the empty conference room on the 3rd floor in 10 minutes. Come alone." The call ended before she could respond. Rochelle sat frozen for a moment, debating whether to tell Harrison. But something told her Preston would just deny the call if she did. She grabbed her phone, made sure it was recording audio in her pocket for protection, and headed to the 3rd floor. Preston was waiting in the conference room, sitting casually in a chair with a folder in front of him. He smiled when she entered, but it wasn't friendly. "Rochelle. Thank you for coming." "What do you want, Preston?" "Right to the point. I like that." He opened the folder and slid a paper across the table. "I want you to look at this." Rochelle picked up the paper. It was a bank statement showing a deposit of $20,000 into her account, dated 3 weeks ago. Her blood turned cold. "Where did you get this?" "I have my sources. Private investigators are useful when you need information." Preston leaned back. "That's a substantial deposit for someone making your salary. Care to explain where it came from?" Rochelle said nothing, her mind racing. "I also have phone records showing Harrison called you the night before that deposit. And I have testimonies from people at the supermarket who saw you two talking that Friday evening." Preston's smile widened. "So here's what I think happened. Harrison paid you to pretend to be his girlfriend so he could fool our grandmother. You took the money because you needed it. The whole relationship is a business transaction. You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? Because I think I do. And I think if grandmother Eleanor found out the truth, she'd be devastated. She might even decide that Harrison isn't fit to be CEO after all. Lying to family, manipulating an employee, creating a fake relationship. These are serious ethical violations." Rochelle's hands shook with anger. "What do you want?" "I want Harrison to resign as CEO. He'll announce at next week's board meeting that he's stepping down for personal reasons, and he'll recommend me as his successor." Preston stood up. "If he does that, I keep this information to myself. If he doesn't, I'll expose everything. Your relationship will be revealed as a fraud, Harrison will be humiliated, and you'll be fired for accepting payment to deceive the Blake family. You're despicable." "I'm practical. Harrison doesn't deserve the CEO position. He's too cold, too focused on work. The company needs someone with vision and family values. Someone like me." Preston headed for the door. "You have until Monday to convince him. If he doesn't resign, I go public with everything." He left, and Rochelle stood alone in the conference room, shaking. Everything was falling apart. She went immediately to Harrison's office. His assistant tried to stop her, but Rochelle walked past without explaining. Harrison looked up from his desk, smiling. But his expression changed when he saw her face. "What's wrong?" Rochelle closed the door and locked it. Then she told him everything. About Preston's call, the bank statement, the threat, all of it. Harrison's face went through several emotions: shock, anger, devastation. When she finished, he sat down heavily in his chair. "This is my fault," he said quietly. "I put you in this position. I threatened your job at that supermarket. I paid you. I created this whole mess. We both made choices. But I'm the one with power. I'm the one who should have known better." Harrison looked broken. "Preston is right. I manipulated you. I used my position to get what I wanted. Even if our relationship is real now, it started with me forcing your hand. Harrison, don't do this. What choice do I have? If I don't resign, Preston will destroy your reputation. You'll lose your job. Your mother's medical care will be at risk. I can't let that happen. He stood and walked to the window. I'll resign on Monday. Preston can have the CEO position. It's not worth destroying your life over. No. Rochelle moved to stand next to him. You can't give up everything because of Preston's blackmail. What else can I do? We tell the truth first. Before Preston can weaponize it, we control the narrative. Rochelle, if we admit the relationship started as an arrangement, you'll be humiliated. Maybe. But at least it'll be on our terms, not Preston's. She took his hand. Harrison, I fell in love with you despite how this started, not because of it. That's real. That matters. If we explain that to your grandmother and the board, maybe they'll understand. Or maybe they'll fire me anyway and you'll be caught in the crossfire. Then we deal with that together. Harrison turned to face her fully. Why are you willing to risk so much for me? Because you're worth it. Because what we have now is real. And because I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions. Rochelle squeezed his hand. We face this together or not at all. For the first time since she'd entered the office, Harrison's expression softened. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you have me anyway. She managed a small smile. So what do we do? Harrison thought for a long moment. We call my grandmother. We tell her everything before Preston can. Then we go to the board meeting on Monday and let the chips fall where they may. Are you sure? No. But you're right. Control the narrative, tell the truth, and face the consequences together. He pulled out his phone. Let's call Eleanor now before I lose my nerve. They sat on his office couch and Harrison called his grandmother on speakerphone. Harrison. To what do I owe the pleasure? Grandmother, I need to tell you something. Rochelle is here with me. We both need you to hear this. For the next 20 minutes they explained everything. The supermarket encounter, the arrangement, the payment, how their fake relationship had evolved into something real. Harrison took full responsibility for the manipulation and coercion. When they finished, there was silence on the other end of the line. Grandmother? Harrison said nervously. I'm processing. Eleanor's voice was controlled but cold. You lied to me. Both of you. Yes, Harrison said. We did. And I'm sorry. Why are you telling me now? Because Preston found out and is threatening to expose us unless I resign. We decided you should hear the truth from us first. Another long silence. Preston is trying to blackmail you? Yes. That little snake. Eleanor's tone shifted from cold to angry. He's been circling like a vulture for years. I should have seen this coming. Grandmother, Rochelle, and I understand if you want me to step down. But I need you to know that whatever this relationship started as, it's real now. My feelings for her are genuine. Mine too, Rochelle added quietly. I love your grandson, Mrs. Blake. Eleanor. I love him despite the messy beginning. There was a long pause, and then Eleanor said something neither of them expected. Then I suppose we need to handle Preston at Monday's board meeting. Don't you dare resign, Harrison. We're going to fight this together. As a family. What happens when the truth comes out? Can love survive when it starts with manipulation? The next chapter will determine everything. If you're invested in Rochelle and Harrison's story, subscribe to see how this all ends. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think they deserve a happy ending? Monday morning arrived with gray skies and a sense of impending confrontation. Rochelle dressed carefully in a blue blazer and skirt, wanting to look professional and confident even though her stomach was in knots. Harrison picked her up at 8. They drove to Blake Industries in tense silence, both knowing that the next few hours would determine everything. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 in the main conference room. As they walked through the building together, employees stared. Word had spread that something significant was happening. Eleanor was already in the conference room when they arrived, sitting at the head of the table looking every bit the powerful matriarch. Vanessa sat beside her, offering Rochelle an encouraging smile. Preston sat across from them, looking smug and confident. The rest of the board members filed in, distinguished older men and women who represented various interests in Blake Industries. Harrison took his seat at the opposite head of the table, and Rochelle sat in a chair along the wall, technically present but not part of the board. Let's begin, Eleanor said, calling the meeting to order. I understand Preston has something he'd like to share with the board. Preston stood, practically glowing with satisfaction. Thank you, grandmother. I do indeed have important information that affects this company's leadership. He pulled out a folder. I have evidence that Harrison Blake has been engaged in an inappropriate relationship with an employee. Furthermore, I have proof that this relationship began as a paid arrangement, essentially a transaction where Harrison compensated an employee to deceive this family. Gasps echoed around the table. Board members looked shocked and disturbed. I have bank records showing a payment of $20,000 to Rochelle Thomas, an employee in our marketing department, on the same day Harrison claimed to have begun dating her. I have witness statements placing them together before that payment was made. And I have evidence that suggests this entire relationship was orchestrated to fool our family and maintain Harrison's position as CEO. Preston looked directly at Harrison. This is a clear abuse of power and a violation of company ethics. As such, I move that the board vote to remove Harrison Blake as CEO, effective immediately. The room erupted in conversation. Board members talked over each other, asking questions and expressing outrage. Eleanor slammed her hand on the table. Quiet. The room fell silent. Before any votes are taken, I believe Harrison and Rochelle should be allowed to respond to these accusations. Harrison stood slowly. His face was pale but his voice was steady. Everything Preston said is technically true. I did pay Rochelle Thomas $20,000. I did ask her to pretend to be my girlfriend at a family gathering. The relationship did begin as an arrangement. More gasps. Preston's smile grew wider. However, Harrison continued, there's more to the story. Yes, I approached Rochelle in a moment of desperation. My grandmother had given me an ultimatum about bringing someone to a family event, and I panicked. I made a terrible choice. I threatened Rochelle's job security if she didn't agree to help me. I abused my power. I manipulated an employee. All of that is true and I take full responsibility for it. He looked around the room, making eye contact with each board member. But what started as a desperate mistake became something real. Over the weeks of pretending to be together, Rochelle and I discovered we actually cared about each other. We fell in love despite the terrible beginning. And I want to be clear, Rochelle did nothing wrong. She accepted help because she needed it. She agreed to an arrangement because I put her in an impossible position. If anyone should be held accountable here, it's me, not her. Rochelle couldn't sit quietly anymore. She stood up. May I speak? Eleanor nodded. Of course. Rochelle walked to the center of the room, facing the board. Her hands were shaking but her voice was clear. I'm Rochelle Thomas. I've worked at Blake Industries for 2 years. I'm not here to defend what happened at the beginning. Harrison is right. He manipulated me. He used his power inappropriately. And I accepted payment to lie to his family, which was wrong. She paused, gathering her courage. But I want you all to know something. Over the past weeks, I've gotten to know the real Harrison Blake. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, but the person. He's kind. He works himself too hard because he's trying to honor his father's legacy. He cares deeply about this company and everyone who works here. And he's capable of admitting when he's wrong, which is what he's doing right now. Rochelle looked directly at Preston. Preston wants you to believe that Harrison is unfit to be CEO because of how our relationship started. But I think it proves something different. It proves Harrison is human. He makes mistakes. But he also learns from them and tries to do better. That's the kind of leader a company needs. Not someone perfect, but someone who grows. She turned back to the board. I love Harrison. That love is real, whatever anyone thinks about how it started. And if loving him costs me my job, then so be it. But he shouldn't lose his position because of a mistake that ultimately led to something genuine and good. Rochelle sat down, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Preston stood up again. This is all very touching, but the facts remain. Harrison violated company policy and deceived his family. Those are grounds for removal. Eleanor stood slowly. Every eye in the room turned to her. Preston, shut up and sit down. Preston looked shocked. Grandmother, I'm simply trying to. You're trying to steal your cousin's position through blackmail and manipulation. Don't think I don't see exactly what you're doing. Eleanor's voice was ice cold. You didn't bring this information forward out of concern for the company. You brought it forward because you want power. She looked around the table. Here's what I see. Harrison made a mistake. A significant one. He handled a personal situation poorly and compromised his judgment. These are serious issues. Harrison's face fell. He thought he was about to lose everything. However, Eleanor continued, I also see a man who came forward with the truth before he was forced to. A man who took full responsibility for his actions. A man who is in a genuine, loving relationship with a woman who clearly brings out the best in him. She smiled slightly. I've seen more positive changes in Harrison over the past month than I've seen in the past 3 years. He laughs more. He engages with people more. He seems like a human being again instead of a workaholic robot. She turned to face the board directly. Leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about learning, growing, and making better choices when given the opportunity. Harrison has shown he's capable of all three. As primary shareholder and board chair, I vote to keep Harrison Blake as CEO of Blake Industries. Vanessa immediately added, I second that. Harrison has my complete support. One by one, other board members began nodding and voicing their agreement. Not everyone was happy about it, but Eleanor's position carried enormous weight. Preston's face turned red. This is absurd. You're just going to ignore what he did. No, Eleanor said calmly. We're acknowledging what he did and choosing to let him learn from it. Unlike you, Preston, Harrison is capable of growth and change. You, on the other hand, have just demonstrated that you're willing to blackmail family and manipulate situations for personal gain. I can't imagine anyone here wants someone with those qualities as CEO. She looked at the board. All in favor of maintaining Harrison Blake as CEO? Nearly every hand went up. Motion carried. Harrison remains CEO. Eleanor gathered her papers. This meeting is adjourned. Preston stormed out of the room, his wife hurrying after him. The other board members filed out more slowly, several stopping to shake Harrison's hand or pat him on the shoulder. When only family remained, Vanessa hugged Harrison tightly. I'm proud of you for telling the truth. I almost lost everything, Harrison said, still looking stunned. But you didn't? Because you finally did the right thing. Vanessa turned to Rochelle and hugged her too. Welcome to the family. Officially this time. Eleanor approached them last. Harrison, what you did at the beginning was unacceptable. You know that. I do. I'm sorry, grandmother. However, I meant what I said in there. You're a better man with Rochelle in your life. Don't let her go. I don't plan to. Eleanor looked at Rochelle. And you, young lady. You have more courage than most people twice your age. Standing up in front of that board and defending Harrison took strength. I respect that. Thank you, Eleanor. Now, Eleanor said briskly, I believe you two have some celebrating to do. Harrison, take the rest of the day off. Spend it with Rochelle. And for heaven's sake, stop looking so surprised that people actually care about you. She left, and finally Harrison and Rochelle were alone in the conference room. We did it, Rochelle whispered. We actually did it. Harrison pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I can't believe you defended me in front of the entire board. Of course I did. I love you. I love you too. So much. He pulled back just enough to look at her face. Rochelle, I know this is fast and I know we've been through a lot, but I need to ask you something. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Rochelle's breath caught. Harrison, what are you doing? I'm doing what I should have done weeks ago if I'd had any sense. He opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful diamond ring. I'm not asking you to marry me right now. That would be rushing things. But I'm asking you to be engaged. To promise we're in this together for real no matter what comes next. Tears filled Rochelle's eyes. You're serious? Completely serious. I want to build a life with you. I want to help fund your marketing firm. I want to meet your mother properly and gain her approval. I want to wake up every morning knowing you're in my life. He took her hand. So will you? Will you be engaged to me? Rochelle thought about everything that had happened. The supermarket threat. The family gatherings. The charity gala. The quiet coffee shop conversations. The truth-telling. The board meeting. Through all of it, Harrison had proven himself. He'd made mistakes, yes, but he'd also shown he was capable of growth. He'd put her needs above his pride. He'd defended her publicly. He'd chosen honesty over convenience. This was real. This was love. Messy and complicated, but genuine. Yes, she said through her tears. Yes, I'll be engaged to you. Harrison slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her. It was a kiss full of relief and joy and promise. When they finally pulled apart, Rochelle laughed. Your grandmother is probably watching from somewhere and plotting our wedding. Undoubtedly. She's already decided you're perfect for me. Harrison held her close. She's right, by the way. They left the building together, hand in hand, and spent the rest of the day just being together. They went to the park. They had lunch at a food truck. They talked about the future without fear. 6 months later, they got married in a small ceremony at the Blake estate. Eleanor insisted on hosting, and neither of them had the energy to argue. Rochelle's mother attended, healthy and beaming with pride. Vanessa was the maid of honor. The ceremony was intimate and perfect. Harrison kept his promise and helped fund Rochelle's marketing firm. Within a year, Thomas Marketing Consultants was thriving, specializing in nonprofit work and making a real difference in the community. The Blake Family Foundation was her biggest client, and Eleanor told everyone who would listen how talented her granddaughter-in-law was. Preston remained bitter and distant, but eventually he moved to a different city and stopped causing trouble. Some people, it seemed, were never capable of growth. 2 years after that supermarket encounter, Rochelle sat in her office at her firm, looking at a photo on her desk. It showed her and Harrison on their wedding day, both of them laughing at something Vanessa had said. They looked happy. They looked real. Her phone buzzed with a text from Harrison, "Thinking about you. Love you. See you tonight." She smiled and texted back, "Love you too." Life wasn't perfect. They still had challenges and difficult days. But they faced everything together, with honesty and love and the knowledge that they'd overcome impossible odds to build something genuine. From a desperate manipulation in a supermarket to real, lasting love. It was an unlikely journey, but it had led them exactly where they needed to be. Together.